Hey guys, and thanks for tuning in. My name is Kelly Dale, and I'm owner of Off the Beaded Path, which is located in Forest City, North Carolina. For today's video, we're going to move on from our right angle weave series for a little while and go on to another stitch, peyote stitch. I've done several videos on how to do basic peyote stitch, so you can look at some of the past ones from that. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you peyote stitch using a super duo bead or a 2-hole bead. Next week I will show you peyote stitch with a tile or a tila bead, either one you can use. But the biggest thing right now at our store, everybody is making the leather wrap bracelets. Or they're making really long bracelets and just wrapping them around their wrists several times. So I got to thinking about, what would be a fun design that I could make a wrap bracelet out of. So I went and pulled some super duos and just did a very simple 4-bead peyote stitch and did a size 15 embellishment around the edge. And this is what it turned out to be. This is the Crystal Orange Rainbow Super Duo with a size 15 embellishment. And it wraps 3 times around my wrist. And then I have the clasp at the bottom so that I just have a really fun piece to wear. Now you don't have to make it really long and wrap it several times. You can do 2 wraps, or you can even do just one very small single bracelet. It's completely up to you. But the wrap bracelets are just really big around here right now. So to do this project, what you'll need is 6 size 8 seed beads, 30 grams. Now this is if you do the like a 3 wrap bracelet, and I wear a 7 to a 7 1/4 inch. So for me, about 30 grams was what I needed to make it. Now at our store, we sell the super duos in 8-gram tubes like this, which is about a 2-inch tube. When you do this project, if you get duos that are come in this size tube, you're going to need about 4 tubes if you do one big one. If you use 1 tube, and this will kind of help you figure out your measurements, 1 tube will do 6 1/4 inches, or I'm sorry, 6 3/4 inches of beadwork. And so if you wear a 7-inch bracelet, by the time you get your clasp on, it should be perfect. So that's kind of how you can base your measurement upon how many tubes you would need for your beadwork. You're also going to need a size 15 seed bead. I'm using about 8 grams, which is about half. Again, we sell them in tubes like this. It's a 8.2 gram tube. So it just kind of depends on 4 to 8, it just depends on how much you're going to do. You'll also need a clasp. I'm going to be using a size 12 beading needle and up to 6 yards of 6-pound Fireline. I'm going to start by threading my needle on 3 yards just because that's what I'm comfortable with, and then as I need to, I will add thread, and I will show you how to do that. So go ahead and get your materials together and we'll get started. So for my design today, I'm going to use 2 colors. I'm going to be using a jet hematite for my outside color, and I'm going to be using a pastel light gray for the inside color. For my 15s, I'm going to be using the matte metallic silver gray. If you're going to do one color, like in the bracelet, all you have to do is pick up the same super duos. You don't have to worry about 2 colors. So the first thing I did was I threaded on a size 15 seed bead and made that into my stop bead. Now I left myself a good 12 inches of tail so that I could go back and add my clasp. So with that being said, I'm going to pick up 1 super duo in my outside color, 1 size 8 seed bead, 1 super duo in my inside color, and 1 size 8 seed bead. Now, if you want this bracelet to be wider, you can. You will just want your beads to be an even count number of beads. So I have 4 to start off with, so you would want like 4, 6, 8, however many beads you want this to be wide. So I'm going to work back towards the stop bead, and I'm going to pick up a size 15 seed bead and an outside color of duo. I'm going to skip the size 8 seed bead, and I'm going to go up through the top hole of the first super duo, sticking up. And I'm going to hold those beads into place and pull. And you'll want to keep your tension pulled kind of tight, or not really tight, but just enough so that you won't see a lot of thread as you work. So when you do that, your super duo that you just added now sits on top of that size 8 seed bead. And it's not going to sit perfectly on top yet until you add the next go round. So from where I'm coming out, I'm going to pick up an inside color of duo. And I'm going to go through the top hole of that very first super duo that I added. Put my finger there and pull. So that when you pull, this is what you got so far. Now, I'm going to be working back in the other direction. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pick these up and hold it in one position so I don't have to keep worrying about, you know, what's going to go where. And, oh, there we go. Okay. So, from where I'm coming out, I'm going to pick up a 15 and my outside color duo. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come through this top open hole of that duo, which would be the last duo that I put on. And see what happens when you don't hold it good? They pop out of place. So you want to kind of get a nice good tension to it there. I'm going to pick up an inside color duo and I'm going to come through the top hole of the last duo here on the end. Hold it. Make sure I've got a nice tension, and I'm going to make sure that my stop bead is kind of pushed up there so it can hold my tension good. Okay, so this is what I've got thus far. On the outside, you're always going to pick up a 15 before your duo. So I've got a 15 and a duo, and I'm going to come up through this open hole of the first duo sticking up. As you can see, I'm holding my beads into place here, and I'm always pulling the thread straight up the way that it's coming out of the bead. I'm going to pick up an inside color duo. I'm going to go through the open hole here of the end duo. Pick up 115 and one outside color duo. Come through the open hole of the duo. And each time, I'm just working back and forth, back and forth. So, as you can see, I didn't have a good grip on it there. This camera kind of gets in the way. Okay. I'm going to pick up an inside color duo, go through the open hole of the next duo, and each time make sure that bead pops into place. Keep it pulled nice and tight. 15 and an outside duo, come up through the open hole. Inside color duo and go through the open hole. And you're going to continue in this pattern until you reach the desired length of the bracelet. When you exit, whatever row you exit, make sure that your tail thread is opposite your beginning thread. So you'll actually want your tail thread to be on this side. So I'm not quite finished with the length, and I've got a little bit of a tail left. And as you can see, I have stopped where I've added my 15 and a super duo. And I did that for a purpose, and you'll see why in a minute. So I'm going to take my new piece of Fireline, my old piece of Fireline, put them together, and I'm going to make a knot. I kind of like to twist mine together a little bit before I start knotting. So I'm going to just do a regular knot. If I can get my needle to do what I want it to here. There we go. I'm going to hold those, and I'm going to pull that knot. Now, if I leave the knot just like this, it's going to pull right apart. So what you have to do is separate your two threads and do a knot in those. If you're using anything above a 6-pound Fireline, this won't work. So then what I'll do is I now have my needle threaded with my new, and I'll keep stitching, and as I do it, I'll get the knot just to pull through, so that way as I work, you just have to be careful around these 15s and make sure your 15 will go through it. And just don't cut off your tails, leave your tails and let them be worked into the beadwork as you do it. So that if your knot was to ever slip and start to come out, it has a good bit it's got to go through before it'll come out. And then if you have just a little bit of a tail sticking out, then you can take and trim that off, but otherwise don't cut it. So as you can see, my tails are completely inside of there. You don't see any of those, so I'm just going to keep stitching till my length. Alright, so I'm finished with my rows, and I am exiting on the side opposite my tail. And I still have one last row that I need to add to finish it out. So I'm coming out of the Super Duo, and I'm going to pick up a 15 and a size 8 seed bead. And just like I would be adding duos, I'm going to go up through the top pole, pull through, and that bead is going to sit kind of wonky until we do the next steps. So then I'm going to pick up 1 8, and I'm going to go through this last delica here on the end. Not delica, sorry, Super Duo. Lord, I ain't even used delicas today. Okay, now I'm going to flip it this way just because I like working in this direction. I'm coming out of the Super Duo here on the end, and I'm ready to add my embellishments along the sides. I'm going to pick up 5 15s, and I'm going to come through this first little 15 here on the end. Pick up 5 15s. Go through the next one. And you don't want to pull tight. You just want to pull enough so that your beads will pop into place. And I'm picking up 5 the whole way down and just going through that next 15 along the edge. Now, here's one thing that I have found using different kinds of beads. These shiny beads I have along the outside allowed space to be in between where I put those 15s. That's why I can put these 5 seed beads here along the side. The matte colored one that I did, as you can see, they're closer together because with the matte, it allows you to get a better grip. And for those, I actually put 4 seed beads between them and not 5. So it's kind of one of those things you'll have to play with your count and see which count lays best, whether it be the 4 or the 5. And you're going to go all the way down this side doing the seed bead embellishment. I've gone all the way down the piece adding my embellishments, and I'm coming out of this last 15 here on the end. Here is my stop bead from the beginning. I'm going to skip the stop bead and go through the duo, the 8, the duo, and the 8. Pull that thread on through so that those 5 beads pop into place, and you can move that stop bead if you need to kind of get it out of your way. And then I'll go through the size 15 seed bead right next to the size 8 seed bead. And then I'll work up this side, picking up my 5 15s and going through the next 15 along the edge, so that then you have a seed bead embellishment along each side of the piece. So just continue going down the piece, adding your size 15 seed beads. Okay, I've gone all the way down both sides adding my embellishments, and I'm coming out of the last 15 here at the end. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to continue on through the 8, the duo, and the 8. I'm going to pick up 3 15s, 1 8, and the first part of my clasp. Now, I don't intend to wear this on a daily basis, so I'm not going to use a wire protector. You can if you want to, but all I'm going to do is take my needle and come back down through the size 8 seed bead. I'm going to pick up 3 more 15s, and I'm going to come back through the duo and the 8 that I came through a minute ago. And when I pull, that pops into place and puts my embellishment straight in the center, or my clasp straight in the center over my 2 center beads, which would be the duo and the 8. I'm going to reinforce this a couple of times and then tie this thread off and do the same thing on the other side with the other half of the clasp, and I'll show you that. I now have embellishments on both sides of my bracelet, and I'm exiting out of my last size 15 seed bead. Now I went ahead and pulled off my stop bead and put on my needle, and I'm just going to go through from where I'm coming out. I'm coming out in this direction, so I have to be coming out of this bead. Can't go back this way or it's going to take the bead off. So I'm going to come through the open hole of the same duo, and I'm basically going to run my needle straight through that line of beads. Then I'll go through the 15, the 115 here on the very bottom, along with the 8, the duo, and the 8. And I'll do the same thing I did on the other side. 3 15s, 1 8, and the other part of my clasp. Go back down through the 8. And then I'm going to pick up 3 more 15s and come back through the duo and the 8 so that this part of the clasp sits directly over the top of those 2 beads. Again, I'll go through this, reinforce this a good many times, and tie the thread off. I now have my wrap bracelet complete. You can see what I've used is a magnetic closure on this one. I like doing the magnetic closure for myself, and the one thing I would suggest, if you're going to do the magnetic closure, be sure and go back through these last couple of rows of beads a couple of good times on each side, and go through the beads as many times as your those 15s as your needle will allow it. On the other example, I used a toggle. You can use whatever clasp you want. It's just a really fun bracelet, and like I said, you can do it single, you can do 2 wraps, or you can do 3 wraps. And all you have to do is just put it on your wrist. Well, let me get it untangled here. You just put it on your wrist and take and wrap around your wrist and then clasp. And then you can wear your wrap bracelet. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to make this very simple peyote stitch wrap bracelet. It's really fun with the super duos, gives it a little bit of a different feel, so that's really fun. You can find the pattern and kits for this project on our website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com, or through our Etsy website. Just go to etsy.shop/off the beaded path, and you can find the pattern and the kits, as well as super duos if you want to just purchase super duos. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you again next time. Bye bye.